Hey guys, this is James. As promised, I'm going to share a review of gold. Let's start with the daily chart. You can see that gold started a new uptrend right here. This is the daily uptrend line, and we were all in. A lot of people were in the gold trade, including myself, and we were worried when it lost this right here. And as expected, what happened was that we back tested it. It became resistance. The daily support line became resistance. We back tested it, failed it. Back tested it, failed it. Back tested it, failed it. Tried again, failed it, and then we had this monster sell off over here. This line right here actually is a longer term uptrend line. Let me show you where we're at on that one. If you look at the weekly, this is the weekly uptrend line. So next week we expect to test this, and bulls will definitely have to show up here, or we're going to look for some more downside on the weekly. I think we lose this, we could test 1311 and then possibly 1300. So we'll see what happens this coming week. So we did lose this daily uptrend line, but we still have this longer term weekly uptrend line, and the longer term line is definitely stronger because it's been there for so long. So something to look out for. Let's take a look at what happened on Friday. So Friday, this crazy candlesticks. Let's break it down to a 5-minute chart, or let's do a 10 minutes, 5 minutes, easier to look at. So we saw Janet Yellen speak, and you saw all this dip buying in gold, and the miners rallied. They were up quite a bit, and then Fisher came out after Yellen was a bit dovish, and Fisher came out and said that there would be a possibility of more rate hikes this year, depending. I believe he said depending on the jobs report that's coming out. And we saw this huge sell-off for the rest of the day. And what I was really leery of is that you could see all this volume was actually bull volume, and then the rest of the day there was not much volume in all this sell-off. And in fact, you see this is bullish volume. This is, you could say that's mixed, and then it just diminished. But they just kept down the price of gold, and obviously markets are manipulated. So take everything I say with a grain of salt. I'm just giving you guys a technical perspective. So obviously big money can manipulate it any way they want to. But watching this move, I was just very leery of it, and so I do expect a bounce on Monday, this coming week, Monday or Tuesday. After seeing this, again, take that with a grain of salt. What else I was watching was the dollar, because the dollar, not always, but in general, it has a inverse relationship with gold, which is funny because most of the gold market is now traded in Asia. I think in 2013, 80% of the global demand for gold was actually in Asia. And but the gold still does trade in the U.S. dollar, and so my thinking has always been even that as other currencies are devalued, it gets more expensive for them to buy gold because they're purchasing it in U.S. dollars. So, anyways, on Friday I saw this huge dip. That's when Yellen spoke. You saw the U.S. dollar going down. And then opposite of gold, you saw this absolute monster move in the U.S. dollar off almost no volume. And I saw this rising wedge, and after it broke here, I always thought that, maybe it's a setup and that gold would rally for the rest of the afternoon. But on almost nothing, it kept going and going. And I was actually in pretty big shock there. So I'm going to look at the weakness of the move in the dollar up and the weakness in the move of gold down, because the volume for me is not very convincing. I think that it is a bit of a manipulation. Again, take that with a grain of salt because market makers can take the price anywhere they want, as you know. And the reason why I'm wary of moves, big moves up or down without volume is on the US dollar. I noticed it before, and I pointed out in the chat room, it was on 812. So 812, it is this candlestick right here. Now, at a quick glance at this candlestick is, it was a lot of sell off, but then you see the bulls buy it all up, right? So you see the bulls show up in force, so you think the next day it'll continue up. But what caught my eye is when I broke this candlestick down, and how it broke down on the hourly. Let's go to 812. 812 right here. So that was the big red candle, right? And you can see most all the volume that day was red, and very little bit of it was the bulls actually buying it up. And what happened was, here too, there was a rising wedge, right? Let's see on that here. And once it broke, it actually tore down to the downside. I mean, just continual sell-off. And so that's why I always like to break down candlesticks in smaller time frames to see whether that move's real or it's manipulation. And looking at the gold and the dollar move, I'm just not very convinced. One other thing I did see was, let's go to monitor. Let's go to GDX. A lot of big money likes to use GDX options instead of Nugget or JNUG because one, it's less volatile. Two, the bid ask is, the spread is very small and it's much more liquid. So what came to my attention was this huge call buying. Sometimes big money buys these options as a hedge to their positions, but often, so a lot of times it's not. They're making a bet that the price is going to go one way. And seeing these huge buyers for September 16 calls, 29.5 and 27.5, you see spreads, and the total of this is 40,000 contracts, which is quite a bit of sum of money. So we'll see what next week brings, but I am expecting this weekly uptrend line to stay intact. Let me see what it looks like on the daily here. I'm expecting this weekly uptrend line that's been going all the way back to stay intact, and it'll be tested this week. So yeah, we'll see. Again, my eyes on the volume, and if bullish volume continues to come in on gold with if bearish volume continues to come in on gold with increasing volume, then that'll be a red flag for me. But if we do see a turnaround, I think that I'll stay in the gold trade, my longer term core positions. I have been scaling out, but yeah. Anyway, see you guys on Monday and have a good weekend. And those are my thoughts on gold.